Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's another week, another happy Monday, Sean. Still smiling. There you go. I'm Anthony Haggerty, Haggerty 10, joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. You know the drill with the Twitter handles by now. How you doing, Sean? You all right?
Not bad, Tony. Aye. Yourself?
I'm very well. Now, housekeeping, you can see in the top left of the screen or whatever way you're looking at it, and down at the bottom, it's the One Football app. They're our sponsors, and we're delighted to have them on board. And the One Football app is a one-stop football shop for scores, news, lineups, transfer rumours, live streaming, match highlights, and much, much more. You can immerse yourself in the digital football world and have the best personal digital experience out there. And we encourage you guys to download the One Football app, as there's lots of brilliant stuff on there. Is there not, Sean?
Certainly is, Tony. Aye, certainly is. Downloaded it myself.
Yeah, indeed. And if you see along the bottom, we also thank all our subscribers. Hope you've enjoyed the season, champion season. It's been tremendous. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way, you can support the top quality journalism covering the club you love all season. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. £3 for 3 months. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And again, we say thanks to everybody that has managed to do that. Now, Sean, Jota, inching closer, isn't he? Inching closer.
Seems to be.
Yeah, there's a report, Portuguese newspapers, Ebola, whatever way you want to say it. As you told me off air, Portuguese for the ball or a ball. So, yep, indeed. But they're claiming that the deal was more or less a certainty to go through because he's more inclined to say yes to Celtic than look elsewhere. It's been kind of in stages now, isn't it? Just now waiting for that final announcement by the club.
Aye, I mean, we were a wee bit, let's not lie, we were a wee bit wary about talking about Jota again today, weren't we? It's getting a wee bit repetitive, and there's the same news, like you're seeing a lot of places, the same news dressed up slightly differently a week or so later. For instance, 30% sell-on clause. Benfica have it. We already knew about that. Me, you and Alison spoke about it on the briefing a couple of weeks ago, linked it to the Edouard PSG deal, all that, remember? Well, that wasn't news, but neither is it news to say that Celtic have put in an offer because we knew about that as well. But there was an update. You're right to say there was a wee bit of an update in terms of taking it slightly forward a wee bit, and that was in the Portuguese press. The Ebola report. It was in the print edition, right? Because initially, when it emerged on social media the other day, I was kind of looking through the kind of cited sources, and I was like, there's nothing on their website at all since Jota's like the aeroplane stuff. But it turned out it was in the print edition, so get digital subscription access and stuff, and was running it through the translator and all that. And it did say that their understanding was that Jota's favourable to staying, and that it is essentially more likely than not now. Which again, it bodes well, Tony. It's he's not just because he's in Ibiza with Celtic players, but it does bode well that they're kind of saying that in print. It wasn't a gossip column as far as I could discern. It was them saying that their understanding is that it's closer to happening than not. So yes, an update, but as to how close it actually is, I don't know. Will it be this week? No word from the club yet. But it does bode well, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news, Sean, because you know a lot of times Celtic have been in these situations and that horrible S word comes up, snag. You know, so I've not seen that and I've not read that, and it seems to be going along swimmingly well. And I think both sides have done their homework. And like we always spoke about it, we were never concerned because it would come down to the player's personal happiness and the club, you know. So it seems to be really happy.
We're very much in the transfer window jargon period now, aren't we? Deals hit a snag, windows slam shut, etc.
Swoops, transfer swoops, and all that. Yeah, we'll play close season bingo with that, Sean. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, indeed. But no, it's certainly good news for Jota, and I think a lot of Celtic fans just want it to be officially confirmed. A lot of them have been in this movie before, and they'll just refuse to believe it until the club officially announce it or the player officially announces it himself. So there you go. Now, another one, Sean, that we watched this morning. We saw this morning, Rio Hatate appeared on Japanese TV.
Yeah.
And there was various things said, but our good friend Dan Orlowitz translated it all, bit by bit, stage by stage, in a kind of Q&A type way. and translated his answers. And he said an interesting thing, didn't he? At one point, he said, if they play well, the fans will applaud you, and if you don't, they'll boo you. But Dan was quick to say that was the literal translation of his words. But I think what he meant was the fans get disgruntled, they get annoyed, and he's noticed that it's not exactly booing per se before anybody jumps on any kind of bandwagon and says he's getting pelters from the Celtic supporters. He didn't mean it like that, did he?
That's what that's what I thought. There was a couple of people pointing out to Dan Olowitz that might be what it was, and he kind of agreed that although literally he did say the word boo, he didn't necessarily mean that people are sitting in the crowd going boo. Like it was more, you know what it's like at Parkhead. There's maybe a misplaced pass, or maybe they've not scored an opener yet, and you misplace a pass or you take a shot that goes wild over or whatever, and there's a wee murmur of discontent, a couple of groans, that kind of thing. It's more that than actual boos and jeers. I think it might be blown out of proportion elsewhere, but it won't be here. It's not going. It's not that.
No, because Dan was quick to point that out, wasn't he?
Yeah, aye.
You know, and it was quite an interesting interview because
it was.
Kyogo even popped up at one point, didn't he? To have a laugh at his expense.
They did. It was there was plenty of interesting stuff in it actually. That wee video message from Kyogo, he ribbed him. He ribbed him for a wee bit. He says, Are you getting nervous when you're talking again, Rayo, and stuff like that? And he was saying that the players sometimes kind of take the mickey about the way that he walks and different things. It was interesting because they cut back to Hatate and he said, "Well, we don't really talk too much," but he did say that hopefully he'll see that side of him when he comes back and stuff. And it must admit, Kyogo, true to type, his message ended on a very humble note, saying that everybody trusted Rayo Hatate and they think he's a great player and all that stuff. It was good stuff all around, to be honest. There was even more than that. Your favourite bit's still to come.
Oh, my favourite bit was his mother and father who appeared at the end in Celtic strips. The father thanked the interviewer for looking after him, but his mother said, "Well done on being a champion," didn't she?
It was good that it was another video message at the end, and it's just the two of them sitting there at their presumably dining room table with their Celtic tops on.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it?
It was good. It was good. He was even talking about adjusting in Glasgow, different things like eating at a local Italian restaurant with Daisa Mida dozens of times and never being charged, that kind of thing. And it was good. It's worth a watch. I'll actually dig out the link and put it in the comments for you if you haven't went through it, because it's worth a wee read through. Yes,
it is indeed. You should watch it, guys. It's good. You'll get a good laugh as well, and you'll see that camaraderie with the two players having a pop at each other, and the lovely bit at the end with his mother and father. That always warms the heart, those kind of stuff. Sean, Francisco Ortega, Bellis Sarsfield.
Yep. Tim and I asking about him here.
Yeah, under 23 Argentine international.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, these are names that appear in the press, Sean, and you said Ross Goodwin did a scouting report on him.
He has, I'll put the link in the comments for everybody.
Yeah, there's a link there, guys. You can click on the site and have a look and see what he says. But it's now the season for that, isn't it? We had Mohamed Jazzy the other week.
Yep.
We've now got Francisco Ortega. I'm sure somebody else will join the list, no doubt, further down the line. But when you read about these guys, Sean, what's your concern? What are you looking for?
Well, first of all, it's another week, another left back linked. So, despite that, before I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. It's another one that fits a certain profile, which I think is good. You all know, if you watch this regularly, my feelings on Greg Taylor, but that's never been to say that I think he's the whole package. Now, one of the gaps that most people would probably identify in his game is a lack of kind of top tier athleticism, and whether it's Francisco Ortega or Mohamed Jazzy, that seems to be something that these left backs at Celtic are reportedly targeting will offer. So I don't really see a problem. I think it will add to the options. I think it makes sense. I think especially in Europe, it could make sense to have a guy who fits a profile that's slightly different from Greg Taylor's. Yeah. So I think it makes sense. Basically, there will be other things that you look for in the left back, not just athleticism. As I say, you need the technical quality, you need that kind of thing. But that's what's jumping out at me, as the two left backs have that over Greg Taylor, the athleticism and the raw speed that Greg Taylor doesn't really have. So I think it makes sense. It adds another string to Ange's bow, another way that he can play if he wants to, in terms of Taylor's really good at the inverted stuff, coming in and taking the ball, and his passing's improved. Although I wouldn't say he was slow. And I think he is. I've called him, I mean, Dies and Midas kind of co-opted this, a Duracell Bunny thing, but I was using it for Taylor a few months ago, because he doesn't stop in terms of, he's always on the move. But in terms of top tier raw speed or athleticism, he doesn't really have that. This would be an avenue for Celtic to get that in the team.
Sean, we've been banging on about it, yourself especially, but we all have spoken about this, that the players that are brought in for certain positions have to be better than what we have.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is the key to me. You know, I've been banging on about it and annoying you by saying that every time that we mention a guy, but it has got to be the case, because the time for wholesale recruitment like last summer is gone. For me, it's got to be more like January. I keep saying that. I just think it's very important. There will be exits, and I think that those are just arguably as important as the guys coming in. But the guys that come in have to be good enough to either usurp someone who's in the team, or at least push them to play their best football every week, to stay in the team. We
are now at the quality part of the recruitment, Sean. Past the quantity stage, it's now quality that they have to bring in, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. That's exactly what it is, Tony. Exactly what it is. Similar to ourselves, quality over quantity.
No, I think we would be replaced at the drop of a hat, Sean, but that's not here. Yeah, they must be first team starters on arrival. Yeah, I mean, myself and Sean we've been banging on about that for a long time, Sean in particular. But yes, indeed, the retro Celtic, Sean. There's one there for you. How many sleeps was it? Is it there? Yeah. Oh. Look it up. How many sleeps?
I think that's me pressing it as you're pressing it. How many sleeps till pre-season? I know, I'm not that good at maths.
Indeed, yeah. I just think, if we spoke about it on Friday, there's an air of excitement about this season coming up, Sean, isn't there? To see who they bring in, and obviously to see their name back at the top table of European football, and just to see how they cope with that.
Yeah, I mean that is the next step. You've mentioned it and you've written about it as well a couple of times now. It is the next step. You've got to be able to adapt in some way. I think you would be able to use that word, adapt. And I'm not meaning it in the sense of go 10 men behind the ball, adapt. I mean adapt as in play your game to such a level that, similar to the way Bodo Glimt made Celtic look, that your game has taken the opponent not by surprise, but essentially exploited what the opponent can't do. Yes. And I think this is, for that reason, and that game kind of sticks in the mind with us. I don't think not good enough on the ball is the criticism of Taylor in Europe. I think it is the athleticism thing, because the game that he was, in a way, exposed wasn't the game that he wasn't good on the ball. It was the game that a winger who was more technically adept, but also had the raw power, raw athleticism, where it didn't matter what Taylor done really that day. Yeah. Which is all I saw back, and obviously I'm talking about that was the game that kind of sticks in people's heads, and that wasn't to me that he wasn't good on the ball. It was the other side of the game. So
yes, indeed. Now, guys, get your questions coming in. If you want to ask Sean or myself anything, throw them into the comment section, and we'll do our best and endeavour to give you an answer.
One here from William Lamont, the good backup keeper. I'd actually say yes, but they've gave Scott Bain a new deal, which suggests he is the main backup keeper. Then again, the way that Joe Hart spoke on the pitch at Parkhead after the last game suggests that he isn't convinced that they won't recruit another keeper. He might have just been kind of humble and stuff, but he did kind of mention at a club like Celtic, you never know. He hopes to be between the sticks at the start of the season for the Champions League and stuff. That to me suggests that he knows there's a chance if something crops up that they might sign another keeper. Ordinarily, yes, I would say they did need another one. But given they've given Scott Bain another deal, I don't know how likely it is. Would you think, Tony?
Well, I've mentioned I've threw a couple of keepers' names out there, but I just don't know if they'll be content to come and play second fiddle to Joe Hart and Scott Bain. You know, I mentioned Benjamin Siegrist from Dundee United. A lot of people kind of like him, but I just think these guys are playing first team football, and I don't know if they'd want to come and sit on a bench, because it would probably be made clear to them that they would be understudy to Joe Hart. You know, and some guys just wouldn't put up with that. I guess money talks, and the opportunity to go to a club like Celtic might appeal to them and to possibly play in the Champions League. But I still think they need another goalkeeper if Barkas leaves, which is more or less, I think, will be a certainty in the summer.
I think so. You've got Toby Olayemi from the B team as well, who's meant to be highly rated in the club. Probably a longer term thing rather than necessarily this season. You also got Connor Hazard, who's away on loan in Helsinki. Yeah. He's been playing regularly. Again, I've said to you before, I think his chance is probably gone. I think he was probably surprised. Well, the fan base were probably surprised that he got the chance that he did.
Yep.
Don't necessarily think he was bad or anything, but I don't think he. Likewise, I don't think he took it. So I don't expect to see him really stake a claim. But again, the way that they've given Scott Bain a deal, which might just be the fact that he's happy to be on the bench and it won't be a big kerfuffle if he doesn't get any game time, because he was famously, of course, never made our power rankings despite making well over 50 match day squads, but just didn't get game time. So it might just be to protect themselves and have that extra pair of hands there, literally.
Sure.
But it would need to be the right keeper. But in terms of Benjamin Siegrist, he's impressed against Celtic, but does that make him a Celtic keeper?
No.
The concentration levels, the different type of game that you've got to play, that kind of thing. I don't know. You don't know that kind of thing until they get here. That's the problem.
I agree with that too. A couple other questions coming in there, Sean, but I've lost them in the comments. There you go. Here's one. Do we try 3-5-2, Sean, from Tim and on?
They could. Similar to the way that he says, can he play Kyogo and Jack Kamakis together? He could. Whether he will or not is a different kettle of fish. But he did it against St Johnstone in Boxing Day. That was probably mostly down to the personnel issues. But they won. They played well enough and they won. As I've said before, he did do it with Australia. He played 3 at the back. So this kind of, he won't shift from 4-3-3. It's the philosophy he won't shift from rather than the formation. That said, I don't think he will. I don't think he will unless he. I think you need a reason. Put it that way. I think it will be 4-3-3 until there's a reason not to be, and I think the Boxing Day game gave him a reason not to be. So he could, and he does have it in his locker, despite what people might make out to you that it's 4-3-3 or nothing. He has used 3 at the back before, so you never know. I don't expect it. Certainly from the outset, I think you'll be looking at 4-3-3 and improving certain areas of that 4-3-3 rather than changing it, if you know what I mean. Like what I was getting at with the Bodo Glimt comparison was exactly this, Kaiser, which was same as I always say, the boxing analogies, all that. You impose your style on the opposition rather than the other way about. That is essentially what I was meaning now.
Yeah, and that's essentially what he says. He always says play our football, our brand of football. That he always mentions that when he's talking. The way he's going to approach the game is for Celtic to play our brand of football. Here's another one from Pete McGee, Sean. We play Kalmak as a 6 or moving forward, assuming we have a replacement for him.
Now, the thing with that is I think he's great at the 6. I think he suits the way that Celtic are trying to play it with him at the 6. I think it's ideal, but obviously, like yourself, Tony, you've mentioned you'd like a wee bit more of a physical presence in there, especially maybe for European games.
Yep.
But that's fine. You can have that as well because McGregor's capable of moving to the 8. We just move him up one. The thing with McGregor is, and this is where I kind of pointed out earlier in the season, specifically when the defence wasn't maybe playing at their full capability and still getting used to each other and stuff, you can't underestimate how just confident and how impressive it was for McGregor to be that sole 6, taking the ball off of the defence when they weren't quite that confident passing it out. Because if they were ever in danger, it was like, give it to McGregor, even if he's under pressure, he'll be able to get us out of the press, that kind of thing. And did they always do it? No, sometimes he misplaced a pass, blah, blah, blah. But for them, one, to have the confidence to give it to him, even when he's under pressure, that is not, and again, I'm not comparing the two of them, but I did say to you earlier in the season, that's the kind of thing that you hear Paul McStay's teammates saying about him, where it didn't matter if there was a guy on him, you could give him it anyway if you were under pressure. That was the kind of thing that McGregor offered, especially earlier in the season when the defence weren't quite clicking yet. So him at the 6, I think, really, really suits Celtic in the way they want to play. Does he always need to play the 6? No. There is scope for another single pivot to come in, whether it's Ideguchi maybe getting his chance and playing it well, or maybe if it's someone else, maybe more physical, like you're suggesting, Tony, coming in. That's fine because McGregor's going to play regardless. He'll just go to the 8 if that's the case.
Yeah. there's not a role in the midfield that McGregor can't play.
Essentially, that is the case.
Right?
Essentially, that's the case.
He is a wonderful footballer, wonderfully talented footballer, in my opinion. But as you say, how many times did he pick up the ball from the defence and start a move or run 40, 50, 60 yards with it deep into the hat of the opposition? And, I mean, epitomised at Ibrox that day when he just picked up the ball and he charged into the box and made things happen. And that's what he does when he picks up the ball as a six. He makes things happen. As you say, it doesn't always come off, but he's very good at what he does. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't pinpoint many stray passes that Callum McGregor makes in a football match.
But the thing for me is, even if he's passing under pressure stats are great, as you could imagine, but even if he has made a slack pass under pressure, the context to me matters in terms of, was it because the defence weren't quite confident enough to play that ball beyond McGregor into the eights and they give it to McGregor? Because as I say, at the start of the season, that happened a lot because the defence weren't clicking. They weren't that confident at the start of the season. It happened probably, I've not got the stat to hand because I'm basically saying this without the benefit of knowing if I'm actually right or not. But I would imagine the stats probably bear out that as the season progressed, that wouldn't have to have happened so much, because you could see the progress, particularly Carl Starfelt made, where he was still playing on the wrong side. He's still playing left centre back, right footed, and that comes with certain constraints in terms of body shape and all of that. But he was more ambitious with some of his passes through the lines as the season went on. I think you could see that just with the eye test, not just having to see the data. Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think, impressed quite a lot of people with his willingness from the get-go to try and play those passes. But certainly at the start of the season, having McGregor at the six, I don't think you can underestimate the difference that it made to getting the confidence coursing through that defence. And
I'm like you, 6 or an 8. I think McGregor's.
Who do we appreciate?
Exactly. Correct him. He could play either or. It doesn't really matter what role you prefer him in. As you say, you likened him to Paul McStay.
Only in that sense. I'm not going to claim the overall thing.
Those who are old enough to remember Paul McStay in his prime. Paul McStay was a technician, a wonderfully gifted footballer, and Callum McGregor very much cut from the same cloth. Andrew Gillier, I'm looking forward to Ideguchi. Don't know how good he is in Brave, can score too. It's a real shame that happened to Ideguchi in the Alloa game. Celtic were robbed of the chance to see Ideguchi in his finest. And I think it's an intriguing one. I used that word last week about Ideguchi. I think he's an intriguing one of them all, isn't it? I think Celtic supporters are desperate to see what he's got in his locker.
He is, and Ange mentioned a couple of times in press conferences, even though he wasn't going to get game time, that he was one that was looking at to really drastically increase his game time next season. That's maybe because he maybe knew that Neil Beaton wouldn't be there to kind of fill that gap. But regardless, when he came on against Motherwell, which you can only take so much from because it was such a dominant display, last game of the season, all of that. But he attempted a pass that I thought was quite ambitious. I don't know if you remember it. The ball came over, and rather than take it down and take a touch, he noticed that I think it might have been Giakoumakis was willing to peel off a defender and make a run. So he tried it first time, a cushion kind of volleyed pass into the box. It never quite came off, but I like the ambition to even try it. Because part of where I think maybe the midfield would need to improve getting into next season is maybe trying that ambitious pass one pass sooner than what they do, that kind of thing. Because sometimes, and you've seen it all season, Kyogo is specifically Kyogo, but also Maida's been getting into the habit of doing it. Giakoumakis sometimes does it as well, making runs that maybe other players aren't quite seeing until, again, a pass beyond what they attempt it. By that time, the defence maybe sets. If Ideguchi's, I know that's not primarily what he's in to do, is not create. But if he's willing to do that, if the opportunity arises, that bodes well as well.
Yeah, it's all about the vision there, Sean, isn't it? Seen that, I've always said bravery, Kyogo, Maida and Giakoumakis make some superb runs. It's about tuning into it. Because the minute you get the ball, they'll be on the move. So if you've got somebody with real vision and as a technician, you'll find them. Ralston clipped that ball forward for the goal against Mull because he knew he was on the move. He looked up, Kyogo went, he played the pass, he executed it to perfection. When it comes off, it looks great. The same with Jota against Ferencváros. The 60-yard through ball, one touch, it's in the net. You've just got to be tuned into these guys. And if you can get somebody like who can play like that. That'd be great moving forward.
I don't want to concentrate on this too much, but the guy who I thought at the beginning of the season literally wrote an article saying he's perfect for Ange Ball and all that kind of thing was obviously Ryan Christie, and I think he already had a great understanding with Kyogo before he left. Ultimately, he left. Doesn't matter at that point. But I do think he was one of the players. Rogic sometimes as well seem to be on the same wavelength as Kyogo, but overall, I do think that's one of the things that you're wanting to see more from. And I think near the end of the season, you did see it. Callum McGregor as well was taking a wee bit more risks with his passing, even if it was from deep.
Yeah.
As the season progressed, because these runs were obviously going unnoticed a lot of the time, and you're a fool to think they didn't know that when they were doing their video analysis. So I expect it to improve, and I think they know that it should.
I also think Matt O'Reilly.
Oh yes, because
Matt O'Reilly's got a real eye for a pass,
and he's got, as I say, the bravery to try it.
Yeah, and he's got that 1 and 2 touch ability. I did a piece with Paul Lambert. And Paul Lambert told me to watch him because he's got that ability just to take 1 and 2 touches and make things happen. And I would love to see how Matt O'Reilly progresses in a whole season. I'm looking forward to see what he can bring to the table next season.
Says to you, and I says in the power rankings as well, I'd expect him to be touching for a podium place in that next year.
Yeah,
because if he stays fit all year and there's no hiccups or anything, I expect him to get a lot of minutes and make a lot of goal contributions because he's already done it and he's only been at Celtic half a season. So the longer that understanding develops, he also takes set pieces. He's willing to play that. Willing to play that risky pass. He's got the bravery for that. I think it really bodes well for him. I'm going to put this up for you, Tony. What do you think of that? James McCarthy as a 6 in European games.
Do you know what? I just didn't see enough of James McCarthy to convince me this season, but I hope he gets himself fit because I think like James McCarthy's kind of trading on a reputation from the past because James McCarthy was a decent footballer, but he's been given a 4-year deal. A lot of eyebrows were raised at that. But I've not seen enough this season to convince me that he was worth the 4-year deal. But there was one particular game where he came on or whatever game, whatever he played, either he played from the start, I can't remember. St Johnstone, I thought, the Boxing Day game. He started that, didn't he? I'm sure he started that. And he showed me that there was still a player there. If he can get himself up to speed and fit, because he started to do a lot of things like drop ones over the top to Abada, and so I was quite convinced then that I thought there is something there, but he didn't push on after that. He didn't really get many more minutes after that, and I thought that was one of his better performances. So I'm still not convinced, but I'm not averse to it, to be honest.
I don't see it. I think he looks lost a lot of the time when he plays. Yeah. I think there's been a couple of honourable exceptions where he's come on and kind of shored up the game and he's done all right. But I think was it the Wraith Rovers game? He played that incisive pass through, and he did it against, was it Livy? I can't remember. He did it against another team as well. But you don't really see that, and that's not really his game a lot of the time. He would need to improve drastically for me to touch the starting 11 for a European game. I think he's probably looking at coming on to shore up a game, and that's his role. Yeah. Whether you can say that's worth it or not, I don't know, because I still think there's question marks over the 4-year deal to begin with. But I would imagine that's probably going to be his role.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll play maybe bit parts here and there domestically, but I just don't see him featuring in a Champions League team for Ange the way he wants the team to play with a quick tempo. And I'm like you, I agree with Andrew there. I think that's he's a slow player, isn't he? We're coming to the kind of tail end of his career, so could be wrong. Players have proved you wrong in the past, so we'll see. Here's hoping he does have a renaissance, because again, it'd be another good option for Celtic to have.
Yep. If he was capable of it, listen. Fair enough. If he does, I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with your thoughts on that.
Another comment actually from Andrew here. This just goes back to what we're talking about, and I was saying about the bravery on the ball and stuff. That is exactly it. they know if they try it, he won't throw them under the bus if it doesn't come off, that kind of thing. We've spoken about it all season, but it is important that they know that, because it gives the likes of O'Reilly the freedom to try it. And I think, as I say, I think that's something you'll need to look out for in the new season. I think they'll be trying a lot more to try and get them runs that Kyogo's making.
Well, they'll be a lot more confident now, Sean, in their ability to do it. They'll have had a season of bedding in under Ange, and I've said before, practice makes perfect, doesn't it? It's been drilled into them now, and he encourages players to speak their mind both on and off the park. Going back to Giakoumakis' comments, he never threw him under the bus, and he's like, I think he treats them as well as he can. See, you're grown men, you can say what you like, as long as you perform for me. Do things, and if you make mistakes, fine, that's on me, because I'm asking you to do this. But the longer you do it, and the more you do it, it'll become second nature. So as you say, Ideguchi comes on or plays, those passes will become second nature. He'll do it, and it'll work, and it'll come off.
I think the best, or one of the best incidents I can think on is, see the goal Jota scored against Rangers?
Yes.
And the build up to that, and I mentioned it in my piece after the game and stuff, and the build up to that, Greg Taylor had tried a pass through from roughly the left back area, but in the opposition half. He tried a pass and it got cut out, and Rangers had a chance to break. They never made anything of it. But the very next time he got the ball, Maida opened up an avenue for him to pass it again. Now, if you've not got the backing of the manager, if you've not got the confidence and still by that to play that pass again rather than turn back and play it to McGregor or play it to Starfelt or whoever, they don't score that goal. So Taylor having the confidence to play that second ball after messing it up right before it, it's a microcosm of what the manager's trying to instill in them. Do it again. If you get it wrong the first time, it's my fault for telling you to do it, but you've got to have the bravery to do it again. And he did do it again, and they scored because Maida beat his man, put it across, and Jota put it in. That's one that sticks out to me. Is that playing out in front of you?
It's the plan B. Do plan A better. Just play a pass and you mess it up. Do it better the next time. I mean, that's his philosophy, isn't it? So, and you can see the players carrying that out on the park. You can actually see them doing that.
Sorry, I've just clocked Frank's comment there.
Yes, well, these are things that you rise and fall by, Frank. I mean, that's not to say that McCarthy won't play some part in Celtic's future, but we're sceptical of that at the minute,
Aye.
And that was a cracking pass from Taylor. You're right, but there's been many instances like that this season. Where players have, they just keep doing the same things, because it's when you keep listening to the manager, and he always says, I keep telling them, we'll prepare the same way, we'll impose our own game on the opposition, we'll play our football. That's how you win football matches. He's standard for his wardrobe. Yeah, Solidarnosc and all that. Indeed, I like that, guys. Thanks very much. But no, it's I just think everybody said, all the Dan Olowitz and all the Australian guys, that the second season is much better under Ange. They all said that. So you were starting yourself in for a period of transition. You weren't writing off the season, but you were thinking, okay, as long as it's an improvement on last season.
Aye.
They're well ahead of schedule. Now I want to see Celtic come racing out the traps next season, and I think that's what the manager will be hoping for too in every competition. They'll be used to it now, and they'll know what to do, and there'll be a real responsibility on the players to do that. So, and if the second season is better than the first, then bring it on, Sean. That's all I can say.
I think that's a great sentiment to end on, isn't it, Tony?
Indeed. Second season will be better, Andrew says. Well, here's hoping. Guys, as we always do, log on to OneFootball. Download that on your phone, the app on the phone. The link's in the description. As we always say, it's your one-stop football shop for scores, news, lineups, transfer rumours, live streaming, match highlights, and so much more. You can immerse yourself in the digital football experience and have the best personal digital football experience out there. It's a really good app, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. And also, running along the bottom, you know what to do. £3 for 3 months, and you can join us www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. You can tune in every day and watch myself and Sean and Alison talk about Celtic.
Yep.
And we thank you for your subscriptions as well. Really couldn't do it without you. Thank you for your comments in the comment section, the contributors. We feel as if we know you now, guys. There's a hardcore element out there that tune in every day, and we appreciate all the support that we get, and actually the love that you show us as well. We appreciate that too, Sean, don't we?
Aye, yep, certainly do, Tony.
We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Celtic. Jota might inch closer, Sean. Possibly. But have a happy Monday, guys. Yep. And as I say, we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, Sean, for your contribution. First class as always. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.